welcome to our Behavior 101 training. My name is Heather Costa. I'm the Behavioral Specialist for Flexit Academy. I'm super excited to be conducting this training for you, and I'm hoping you can grasp some new things that are coming for this school year and be able to implement them at the beginning of the school year so that way we have a successful school year. So let's get started. So your objective today, learning about behaviors, is one, I will be able to understand the needs of special needs students, especially autism. I know we work with a lot of population in the autism spectrum, but as well as there's other students as well. You might see, the OHI or ADHD. And so honestly, all these strategies and all the interventions I'm going to be talking about will kind of hit or help, I should say, all of those categories of students that might display those type of disabilities. I will be able to understand the function of behaviors, so we're going to learn about some functions and some interventions of how to help those different functions of behaviors. You will be able to collect ABC data. This is very, very important. We'll explain that to you later. And I'll be able to understand the importance of positive reinforcements. So we'll hit and learn about positive reinforcements and how they can really help your classroom management as well as classroom environment and students wanting to be in your classroom. So let's get started. So just a little bit about me. I know you can't see my face, but hopefully in the future, I'll be able to go to your campus and you can see me. But my name is Heather Acosta. You can call me Heather, or you can call me Miss Acosta. I kind of go by both. But a little bit about me in the past. I actually started teaching when I was 18, oddly enough. I'm sure you know in Arizona we're very short-handed on teachers. And so I was actually going into the nursing program for college, and I fell in love with teaching at 18. And I switched over, worked for a very long time as a long-term substitute, got lots of training. And then I realized, you know what, I'm going to teach kindergarten. And if you all know that kindergarten, our little babies come, they are sponges, but sometimes they come with possible disabilities that nobody has caught because they've never been in the education system. So I noticed that, man, there's a lot of kids that need support. So then I decided, you know what, I'm going to try special ed. And if I didn't like it, then I can always go back, right? So I got my master's in special education, ended up falling in love with special education, especially behaviors. Behaviors just tickle me pink. And from the behavior aspect, I then met a lady that was actually a RBT, a registered behavioral technician. And she said, you would be an amazing BCBA, a board certified behavior analyst. And I had no idea what that was. And so I kind of looked into it, and sure enough, applied behavior analyst was something I really wanted to study. Went back to school yet again for autism and positive behavior intervention strategies certificate. And now I'm awaiting to sit for my board exam to become a BCBA. So I have a very strong background in special education as well as the education system. I'm actually currently an assistant principal at one of our local high schools, but my ultimate passion is being a behavioral specialist. And so I love going into the schools. I love seeing what Flexit is doing, and I'm hoping that I can help bring more to the team, more of my expertise, and just kind of contribute to you guys and learn from you too. As educators, we learn from each other, and we are only as strong as our weakest. We're only strongest as our strongest. So I really like to share my expertise, but also learn from you too. So please, whenever I go in there, share with me as much as you can, because, we're all there for one purpose, right? To make these children successful in their educational career and later on become in our society as successful adults. So please let me learn from you, as well as I hope I can teach you some things and we can become a strong team together. So I really foresee, like it says future on there, kind of hit the past and the education, but the future, I really want to love to be a BCBA, help Flex It grow, help as many kids be successful, families be successful, because once we get those families involved too, we'll see some great things within our students. So if you ever have any questions too about me, if you want to know a little bit more or a little bit more about education or whatnot and behavior, please let me know. I would be so thrilled to talk more. But I just wanted to give a little background so you know where I'm coming from and where I've learned from. And so we'll move on. And we're going to start out with the multiple faces of autism. I know a lot of us are going to be working with autism kiddos. There's such a beautiful children, because when you teach them, and I've always said this to a lot of my paraprofessionals or teachers I have taught, is that with our kiddos with special needs, and especially our little autism kiddos, or big, sometimes they're much bigger than us, but is that we need to go into their world to teach them, to help them be able to be successful in our world. And so I want to touch a little bit about different things of autism, and some of this might be a review, but hopefully there's a few things, maybe something new, or maybe it's like, oh yes, I forgot about that, and you can put it in for this school year. And so just some of the challenges that our kiddos might have is communication. Some can communicate very, very well, or some may need a PEC system, a picture exchange system. Some may communicate through sign language, or some may communicate with a device, or I believe it's an AAC device, or like an iPad that will talk for them. But communication is key, and not just for the autism kiddos, but like even we communicate, right? We can talk to our friends, we talk to people, and how frustrating would it be if we can't communicate? As humans, we thrive on communication and socialization. So some of those challenges you're going to see when a student can't communicate what they need or want, and that's when you get that frustration, the kicking, the screaming, possibly throwing, or whatever it is that is how they're expressing their anger or frustration. Another one is sensory, is really high on the autism spectrum. The way sensory has been explained to me, and I thought it was like really brilliant, is how on a radio, or I would say a radio, like back in the day, I might be too old, but or you'd like a monitor for your heart, or whatnot, you see the beep, 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 and it goes up, down, up, down, up, down, and then regulates or whatnot. But our kiddos on the spectrum with the sensory is we're kind of flat. We get scared, it jumps up high, and then we regulate back down. Or maybe we get sad one day and we dip kind of low, we cry a little bit, and then we regulate back up. So our kiddos with sensory processing issues or disability, it's like a constant up, down, up, down, up, up, down, up, down. So there's no regulation. And just can you imagine being scared 24/7, or constantly sad, or up, down all the time? It can be frustrating. It can be hard to manage, and getting that child to be back on normal or flat line, so to speak, as I was talking about the lines, it can be difficult for them. So just remember that some of those needs where they're kicking and screaming might possibly be sensory, and I'm going to throw a little tip out here, is that sensory is really, really hard to, one, understand, and two, to figure out. So just know if you think it's a sensory, call me or call somebody else to look at it, and then we can determine what's the best fit for that challenge of sensory. Another one is behavior you may not understand. They might be doing a behavior such as rocking, stimming. They would call that stimming. Or like I had one little boy that used to sing, and I would have lots of aides like, tell him to stop, and I'm like, no, that's the way that's his behavior for him to be able to sit and work. That was the way he was able to focus. So different behaviors can mean a different meaning, but might be different in our eyes. So just remember, like, a behavior that might drive us insane or be like, I don't understand that, it might mean something totally different to that child, or helping them do something that we might not see. So it's kind of like we have to turn on our different lenses, to be able to understand where those kiddos are coming from. So these are just a few of the challenges. Of course, there's many, many others, but definitely communication, sensory, and behavior you may not understand are very high on the challenges for our autism kiddos. So just some 5 simple strategies that you could put in that are quick, simple, inexpensive. One is use their interests. Get to know your kiddos. The lovely thing about Flexit is that it's a small environment. I've seen the classrooms are 2-3 kids, and that's so beautiful, because if you go into our general education out, our brick and mortar classrooms, they're full. They got 15, sometimes 20 kids, and unfortunately we can't get to know them like we would want to. But you guys got the privilege of being able to sit one-on-one and talk to them and understand them, talk to parents, be like, what do the kiddos like? So that way you can connect. It's all about that, building that rapport and that connection. So like if a kiddo likes, I'll give you an example. I have a kiddo that likes trains, and I barely started working with him, and I brought in train books because mom's like, oh, he doesn't like to write, he doesn't like to read, So I brought in these train books, and he's just reading. He wants to write about it. He wants to draw about it. And mom is just shocked. But, well, it's because I'm using something that he's interested in and something he wants to do, because he wants to talk to me about it. And I love it because he's learning, and we'll go a little bit more over how we can utilize that to get something maybe like we're not learning about trains, but it kind of is building that rapport and that trust, so that when I do enter something that he doesn't necessarily might not like, I know he'll work for me because he knows that we can do train stuff later. Number 2 is prepare for what's coming up. Our kiddos are especially our autism kiddos, and just people in general, like, I know I'm very stick to a schedule. So some people are very, very structure, like the schedule. And when all of a sudden my mom walks in and I'm like, what? I wasn't expecting you. It throws me off. Luckily, I'm able to self-regulate myself, right? But some of our kiddos can't. And so just make sure you keep that schedule. If it's a PEC schedule, which would be beautiful, so they can see exactly what's going to go on. And if something changes, that you can throw it on there, like a fire drill or like a field trip today, or whatever it is that may be different than normal. Is just make sure that they're prepared and ready. You're kind of priming them for what's coming up. Number 3 is use visuals. So just like I said, use that PEC system, which is a picture exchange. Sorry, I keep using that term, but like a picture system that shows what they're doing or how to do it. Just be very visual so that they understand and see, and just be mindful that different PECs pictures on the internet may be different than what they see at home or see at the school. So sometimes I even like to do like if I want the kids to walk in line, I'll take a picture of them walking in line, and then I'll use that picture to show them like, oh, it's time to line up. And it shows them, not only does it show them that, oh, this is our school, but, oh, that's me, I know how to do it. And it kind of builds that ownership of your classroom, so they want to do it because they know they've done it. Number 4 is provide time. The nice and beautiful thing again about Flexit, you have a small environment, but it's flexible. That's why we're called Flexit, right? We're flexible to their needs and to their wants, and to get them to be educated, and just give them that time. If one day, we're not perfect. I know I sure ain't perfect, but some days we have bad days, and if you see, oh, he's having a bad day today, we're gonna take our time today, or we're gonna take a lot of breaks today. Make sure they're obviously supervised breaks and timed breaks. Don't give them all day breaks, but give them that necessary extra time if needed. Be that flexible when is needed. And then 5, speak simply. Be very simple in your words. Don't use high words. Speak directly. Don't do the in-between, making it fluffy. Just be like, we are going outside, or line up. Very simple. Even at one point or another, if you see that they're still struggling with verbal, just a picture, pointing to the picture, and eventually they'll know what that is. And another one too, if the speaking is not working, I would say it is like, maybe they're not quite comprehending, is model it for them. Like if they don't know what to line up, like especially our kinders, like I remember I taught kinder and they didn't even know how to blow their nose. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta teach them how to blow their nose. So we sat down and I modeled it for them. Like I take the tissue out and I blow my nose and I wash my hand. Obviously I didn't do it that quickly, but just take your time to show them and model it for them, and then practice it and practice, they say, makes perfect, but might not say perfect, but will definitely come to be much more I would say much more natural. There you go. So here's some characteristics of autism. So cognition of information processing. So they struggle a little bit more of processing that information. So again, going back to the simple talking or just a picture, is much easier for them to comprehend. Comprehension is usually one of their very, very struggles. Like I have a kiddo that reads at, I believe, an 8th grade level, but comprehension-wise, he's probably at a 2nd grade level, and that's okay. It's just, the way he is able to process what he's reading. Social communication, that can go both ways. They don't understand social cues, and watch out for those social cues. Some of them don't quite understand that, as well as maybe a child coming up and talking to them socially, so they struggle with some of that social communication. Emotional regulation, definitely, again, back to the sensory, the up and down. They don't know how to self-regulate, and I'm hoping this year we can implement zones of regulations much stronger, and at the beginning of the year, because the zones of regulation is an emotional regulation program, where it makes it that it's okay to be angry and it's okay to be sad, but it's how we react to that, or how we display that, is what can get us to have inappropriate behavior. Restricted interests and patterns of behavior. So I'll go back to that train, the kiddo that loves the train, and that's all he wants to talk about is trains, and maybe his friends don't like trains, and he might say, nobody wants to play with him because all he does is talk about trains, but that's part of their disability, is that they really fixate on things, and they really want to tell everybody it's so exciting to them. Just like, like us going to Disneyland, and it's just so exciting, and we want to tell everybody about it. But we can see those social cues of like when a friend is like, we don't want to listen to that anymore. But they're not necessarily going to pick up on those social cues. So just remember that those patterns of behavior is something that they enjoy, and so they want to share it, and it makes them happy internally. And not only just like talking about something, it might be a pattern of behavior. If like they come in and they have to touch a certain thing on the wall, or they have to sit in this seat and only this seat, or they have to be with this teacher and only that teacher. So there's different ways of patterns of behavior that you can see. It could be where they're talking about it, or it could just be a certain seat, or it could be a certain thing that they do that makes them have a consistent pattern of doing that. Lastly is, of course, sensory. The sensory need, we'll have, when it comes to sensory, there is input and output of sensory. And so you have to be very, very careful of how you address sensory. Occupational therapist is really good about showing you that. I'm not quite sure if anybody has an occupational therapist coming in. But occupational therapists definitely have shown me the difference between input and output, and also has taught me that if you put do an input when a child needs output, it can really trigger a child. So you have to be very, very careful with that. So hopefully later in the future, we can get a little bit more training on that. I would love to see if we can get more on that sensory needs of input output. But I'll give you a little bit of example. For example, a student who's very, very hyper and he's, can't sit down and just running, can't get to his work because he just can't sit, right? And your kiddos, you're like, oh my gosh, this kiddo cannot sit. And I had one, and he just needed that output. He needed to go for a run. And he learned that he could ask me and give me a card that says, I need a run. All right, let's go for a run. And he would run like 2 small laps, nothing crazy. And then he would come back in, he would sit down and write a little bit, and then he'd be like, I need another break. I'm like, okay, one more sentence, and then he would go for his run. So he needed that output to get that energy out. But if I would have took him and let's say I put him in a ball pit, now that's an input, right? I'm putting all that sensory into his body. That would have triggered him. He would have probably really escalated, never got any work done. So it's really, just be really, really careful when you start I wouldn't say messing, forgive me, trying to help students that have that sensory need. So what is behavior? So let's talk a little bit about behavior. I normally when I do this training, I always say like behavior. What's the first thing you think of? You always think of it's bad. When people say, oh, he has behavior, oh, it's bad, he's doing something bad, he's probably kicking, destroying, or stealing something, or, I'm in high school, so it's probably they're unfortunately getting into drugs or fights or games or whatnot. But actually behavior it's just the way in which an animal or a person acts in response to a particular situation or stimulus, or is something they're trying to express. So of what they need. So for example, I always give this example because I am not a morning person. So in the morning when my alarm clock goes off, I hit my snooze button. So that's my behavior, right? My behavior because I want sleep. I am communicating that I want more sleep. I don't want to get up. I don't want to go to work. Obviously I have to get up, but my behavior is showing that I don't want to get up. I'm sleepy. I want sleep. So just know that behavior is just a way of communication of what we need and what we want. And it's just a response to something that we need, which is the stimulus, right? So let's think about it. People do things for their reasons, not for yours. So let me say that again. People do things for their reasons, not for yours. So the behaviors that they're displaying, don't take it personal. If they're kicking, screaming, and possibly hitting you, right, don't take it personal. They're trying to get something that they need for their reason and not for you. It's nothing personal. So keep that in mind. Just remember, behaviors achieve a goal. And so if I kick and scream because I don't want to do work, or if I, like hitting the alarm because I don't want to get up, well, I just got what I wanted, right? My behavior give me, 5 minutes of extra sleep until my next alarm goes off. So let's talk a little bit about function. What is the function of behaviors? So when we look at behavior from like a behavioral analyst or ABA, applied behavior analyst, we kind of look at 4 different areas. Behavior always has 4 different functions. So one is escape avoidance, one is attention, and one's tangible, and one is sensory. So those are the different ones. When I talk a little bit more about ABC data, this is what I'm looking for. Is this child trying to escape something, avoid something? Is it attention? Is it tangible? Or is it sensory? So I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into that. Okay, so what is escape? So what it does is it removes undesired activities, interactions, or situations. So these are the kiddos that don't want to do their work, or like me, who wanted to sleep more. I didn't want to wake up, so I was escaping what I needed to do. So my behavior showed escape. When it happens is when a task is too under stimulating, hard, easy, boring, or undesired. And so we need to be careful of, one, we need to know where our students are at, right, academically, as well as making sure that we stimulate them, you know, the excitement. And unfortunately, nowadays we have lots of video games that we have to kind of be more interactive with, as well as looking at is it too easy? What if we give, like I gave a kiddo the other day, the mom had told me that he didn't know how to count. He didn't know how to. And I was like, okay. So I brought something that was way too easy for him, because he actually did know how to count. It's just that they hadn't really heard him in a long time. So obviously he went right through that really fast, and I had to be like on top of it. So luckily I grabbed a few other things that were a little bit harder, and I was able to implement that in pretty quick. As well as boring, you know, I know I don't like to sit through things that are boring, like a boring movie, a boring activity, or an undesired task we don't want to do. Like, I hate writing. I do hate writing. I'm so sorry to say that, but I do dislike writing. And so sometimes I'll wait a very long time to be able to write, just because it's just not my thing. It's not my jam. Right? So I have to make it exciting for myself, or, you know, and if you think about it, if a student who hates writing or just can't write, you got to make it exciting. Use those smelling markers, use different colors, you know, let them do text, speech to text. There you go. Sorry, forgive me. Just think creatively, right, of how to reach them to do those different things, and make it fun and desirable. And then what it looks like. So it can look like many things, but here's some very normal or very common is running out of the room. So eloping, so he's escaping, talking a lot, you know, trying to talk about things that are not relevant. So maybe you're doing math and they want to tell you about how they went to Disneyland, or what they did on the weekend. And you're like, wait a minute, you need to finish math. Hiding under the desk. This is when you got to climb under the desk, and let's do it together under the desk, or tape the paper under the desk, and they can do it while they're laying down and write it on the underneath the desk. Asking to leave the classroom constantly. Oh, my stomach hurts, or I need a drink of water, or I want to go say hi to Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, or, you know, just look at those, you know, common factors of he's trying to escape, or she's trying to escape this assignment. And then what to do, you know, provide a first then. You know, first, if you finish math, you can go say hi to Mr. So-and-so. Or first, if you finish this math assignment, you can then go get a drink of water. And you know, make it very attainable. So if it's a big math sheet with 100, obviously they're like, oh, screw this, and, you know, rip it and run away. But, you know, say, hey, how about you do one and then I do one. And then they're like, oh, she's doing half of it, you know. Or here's a smelling marker and you do 5 of them, and then you can get a drink of water. So make sure you know what your student can do. And, you know, be lenient at first. You know, that's one, you're gaining their trust. You're gaining that rapport. And then you can push it later on, and we can talk about that later more in depth of how to, you know, it's a variable, and then it's a ratio of how you get behavior to be better for longer times, but that's a whole nother training. Next one is attention. So attention, I always tell everybody, is kind of the hardest one, but luckily you guys have a much smaller environment, which is nice. So attention can be probably a little bit easier to be able to replace the behavior. So what it does is it provides the access or awareness to and from people or interactions. So they really just want that attention. You know, they might just love the attention from their friends or from their teachers or from the parent or whoever it is that they want that attention from. And when it happens is when there's when social attention is desired. So maybe he wants to really talk to his friends, or he wants this attention from a certain teacher. What it looks like, so these are some common characteristics, is talking, of course, talking. Oh, how's your day? Oh, you look beautiful. I love your hair. And we're like, oh, yeah, you like my hair. Tantrums is another one. So they might be kicking, screaming just to get your attention and to look, for them to look, that you will look at them. Or they might say like very, I wouldn't say like off the wall, but they might say like scary things like, you hate me, or that's blood, or that's scary, or whatever it is, to just to get kind of like a kick out of you, like that attention. And you're like, oh, are you okay? They want that, okay? They want to get that surprise alert from you, and you're kind of delivering that attention to them. Throwing items, they might throw items so that way you pay attention to them. Like if you're working with another student, they might throw something across and you'd be like, what's going on? And that's just to grab your attention much faster, because kids are smart, If they want something, they're gonna get it the way they can. And if you and I'm guilty of this too. If you feed into that and be like, oh, are you okay? Well, you just give him what he wanted. And so when the next time he wants attention, what do you think he's going to do? He's going to throw that piece of paper or throw something else. So just fair warning, be aware that if you constantly see a piece of paper flying around at a certain time because you're not giving that kiddo that certain attention, it might be an attention problem. What to do is provide positive reinforcement or attention before the behavior happens. So you can say like, oh, I see that you're working really well. I'm going to work with this kid and I'm going to be back to check on you. And I hope you get A, B, C done. And then we can talk some more and then go back. Another way you can do it is praise them for when they're doing the right thing. And don't give them any attention when they're doing the wrong thing. Unless obviously if they're hurting themselves or somebody else, obviously that needs to be addressed right away. But if they're throwing a piece of paper or they're crying, you can ignore them and just remind them like, I'll come to you when you're ready, and then wait until he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. And then of course, then go give them that attention. We all love attention. We all want attention, but some kiddos like it a little bit more. And that's a good thing too, of course, but make sure you do it in a positive manner, right? We don't want them constantly crying all the time or constantly saying you're hurting them, so that way you would talk to them. You want it to be all positive. And the nice thing about behaviors, and I probably should have said this a while back, is we're not trying to get rid of the behavior. We're trying to replace the behavior with the appropriate behavior, because behavior is necessary. It's just communicating, hey, I need you, but get them to do it the right way. Raise your hand and I'll come, or put out, your cone that says that you need help and I'll be right there. But of course, modeling it, teaching them how to do it appropriately will get them to get your attention the appropriate way. The next one is tangible. So what it does is it provides preferred items or activities and items. So I'm going to use the most that we see, right? iPad or some type of electronic device, cell phone. When it happens is when a preferred activity or item is wanted or desired. So they may really want to be on your phone or really on the iPad. So what it looks like, you might see screaming and shouting for the item, like, I really want that iPad, give me the iPad right now. They usually are very vocal, or they'll point to it or try to run to it or take it. What to do is provide a transition activity or object, or redirect. So if they want the iPad and it's not iPad time, redirect them maybe with some Play-Doh. Like, hey, come do some Play-Doh for a little bit first. And then this assignment, the first then. First this, then iPad. First 5 minutes of math activity, then 5 minutes of iPad. First do a little bit of work, then you can play with the Barbie doll, or whatever it is that they may prefer, right? So increase the accessibility to it. So like I said, 5 minutes of work, 5 minutes of iPad. Some of them get pretty smart. I had a kiddo that realized, wait a minute, because I used to do 5 minutes like a sheet. So you do this sheet of paper or this activity, you get 5 minutes. He's like, wait, so if I do 3 sheets, I get 15 minutes that you won't interrupt me? And I said, well, yes, you're right. So he got really smart. And so now he realized that, okay, if I just get through all my assignments I need to do, I'll have a longer time on the iPad. So that's what he started doing. So they're very smart, and they start picking up on, I can get more time. or longer time. I want to say more time because he would have got it eventually, but now it's all together, right? He clumped it all together. The DRA and the DRO, that's a little bit more technical terminology for ABA, so differential reinforcement of alternative behavior. So basically, you're having them do something instead of screaming for the iPad. Maybe you have a first then that says that they're going to pick a text that says iPad. So the first then will be the alternative. Okay, first I'm going to do this and then I can have my iPad. And then the DRO is the other behavior. So anything, I don't care what you do, but you're not going to scream. You can lay on the floor and you can get the iPad. But if you scream, you will not get the iPad. So those are kind of a little bit more technical and maybe not necessary to bring up in this training, but they are, if you ever run into an ABA or a BCBA, they will kind of introduce that kind of reinforcement schedules. They're called schedules of reinforcement. So there's different ways of being able to stop the behavior. And I think in our environment, first then is probably the most common you'll see. But you can also do other ways too, like a token board and whatnot. And we'll talk about that in our reinforcement in a little bit. So the next one is sensory processing. So sensory, of course. And what it does is it's sensory processing refers to the way the nervous system receives messages. So from the senses and turns them into responses. So again, like going back to that radio, we're going up, down, up, down, up, down. Usually it's really hard for them to process that. So what happens is for those with sensory processing disorder, sensory information goes into the brain, but it does not get organized into appropriate response. So if I'm constantly up, down, up, down, down, that response may look not appropriate. So if I need an input, I might start screaming, kicking, because I need something to fill that. I need my blanket, my heavy weighted blanket. Or if I need to just let it all out, then maybe I might start pacing or not doing work or tapping, or, I'm just doing an inappropriate behavior to get that sensory out. So another one, and I have seen this before, is the pain attenuation. It's when the students engage in a behavior because there's pain. So when it comes to sensory, and this is why I say it's really, really hard to figure out sometimes, is because pain can also cause that sensory. So like, for example, I had a kiddo that they kept saying, oh, he's hitting his head, he's banging his head. It's, self-harming. That's concerning. And I just kept sitting there and watching. And I said, has anybody ever asked mom to take him to the doctor or the dentist? And they're like, no, we haven't. So they sent him to the nurse right then and there, just, to check. And lo and behold, he actually came out having a cavity. So that's a sensory, right? Pain is sensory, and that hurts. And especially with somebody who has a heightened sensory, wow, I can only imagine what that poor baby's going to do. So I later visited and they said they took the kiddo to the dentist, got it fixed, and no more head banging. So, of course, the first thing, especially with sensory, and I see things, I'll always ask about medical. Like, has anybody taken them to the medical? Or to the doctor, to the dentist, to the eye, whatever it is, we need to medically clear them first. When it usually happens is anytime, especially when anxious, excited, scared, hear loud noises. So, like I said, sensory is one of the hardest ones to know, and because it can happen anytime. What it may look like, clumsy. Like, I had a kiddo that used to run into the wall because they loved it. Oddly enough, they loved it. And I was like, why does she keep running into the wall? And the OT, occupational therapist, actually came in and was like, she really likes the feel of her being thrown against. I'm like, oh, I had no idea. So we got a crash pad. So then she started running into the crash pads, which is way safer than running into the wall, right? Maybe they're covering their eyes, their ears. I'm sure you've seen that, where they cover their ears with loud noises. Or be a little too loud because they are trying to match. Or maybe they don't even want to go to the restroom because it's loud in there. I had a kiddo like that too, and I had to make sure I took him to a single stall. And we didn't flush the toilet. We let him go out, and then I flushed the toilet after he left. Just accommodations so that he felt comfortable going to the bathroom at school, right? And what to do input compressions. Compressions need to be taught. That is an occupational thing. I have actually been taught. I am not an occupational therapist, but if necessary, I can definitely teach you how to do compressions. Output punching bag, so like punching the punching bag. Running was one that's super easy. Redirect to more appropriate behaviors. So instead of maybe like banging his head, we could have, obviously took him to the nurse, or the kiddo that was running herself into the wall is, now we taught her how to run into the crash pad instead of the wall. Occupational therapist is a great resource for ideas for sensory, and hopefully one day we can get an occupational therapist to come in and train us a little bit more. I obviously need to learn a lot more about OT as well. It's a super neat field, especially when it comes to sensory processing. I really enjoy learning about it, and they have lots of great tools and always new and improved tools as well. So just a reminder, if they don't have another behavior to get what they want, they will keep doing the inappropriate behavior. Let me read that again. Reminder, if they don't have another behavior to get what they want, they will keep doing the inappropriate behavior. So if we don't teach them the appropriate way to get what they need or want, like a replacement behavior, and that's why I said that earlier, that we're not trying to erase the behavior. We're trying to teach them a different way of communicating what they want. And so we have to take the time to teach them that so that it doesn't continue, and it will escalate if it continues. It will get more and more and more and more. Or, and later we can talk about this. There's obviously, we can start it. It'll work beautiful. And then there's an extinction burst where it goes pretty high and then it goes back down. But that's a whole nother training. So ultimately, we really need to teach children the appropriate behavior so that the inappropriate behavior is not being displayed anymore. Now we're going to talk about data collecting. And so one thing I want to say about data collecting, and you'll be like, oh, that's something else I have to do. And the reason I really, really want to talk about this is because ultimately, when it comes down to it, we can say a child is escaping something, or a child needs attention, if this is all attention, or this child is failing math. But if we don't have data behind it, it's just our opinion. And anybody can give an opinion. I can give you an opinion. Doesn't mean I have anything to back it up. So what we want to do is to provide that data so that when mom and dad are like, well, how do you know? Or if an occupational therapist comes in and, or myself, when I come in and be like, well, how do you know? You'd be like, here, Ms. Acosta, let me show you the data. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right, But there are several ways we can collect data. Here are a few ways that are commonly used to collect data. There is scatterplot, ABC data, and Antidote. And I'm going to go over those three. They're very common ones that I like to use. There's many, many more, like interval is a big one of data collection. But I think these are the three that will really help us in our environment. So that's why I kind of wanted to talk about these a little bit more. So the first one is a scatter plot analyst. I really like this one because a scatter plot analyst is an effective way to, one, it's very visual and it tracks the patterns of behavior in a client. So for example, this is good about when is this happening? Oh, I see it always in the morning. They're always having a behavior that's inappropriate behavior. That means maybe there's something in the morning that might be influencing that. Or maybe every Monday when he goes to dad's house, he's acting out. Okay, well, there's a transition period, right? So now he's back at mom's and at Sunday, so now he's transitioning. So that's going to be a tough one that we need to address, right? So it's just a great way to see all the different patterns of behavior. And then it narrows it down to certain behaviors, certain times, and just a great visual. I don't use this one a lot. It's just I use this one more to see if like, does this kindergarten need a half day? Or because if, I've looked at them and like, oh yeah, every afternoon he is displaying a lot of behaviors, but during the morning he's doing amazing. So maybe he only needs to come in the morning and we adjust his schedule. Or maybe the behaviors are only happening in the morning and he's just not a morning person. Hey, that might be my scatter plot, right? I'm like, oh, Miss Acosta is always cranky at this time. Well, she hasn't had her coffee. So it's just a great visual to see when and where a behavior is happening the most. So like this one, you can see maybe math is having a hard time. So then maybe things need to change a little bit, adapt or accommodated or modified for that child during math time. Our next one is called an antecedent behavior consequence data. So this is actually called an ABC data. This one is going to be our most common one, and the one that I would really like us to use this year is so that way I can analyze it, and then that determines what intervention we can use. So with the ABC data, it's able to allow me to create the appropriate and the right intervention strategy to put into place, or a behavior plan. So I know this year we're really going to focus on creating some behavior plans for our kiddos so that mom can even implement at home. So what a beauty that could be, where both of our obviously our environment at school is doing our behavior plan, and now home is doing it. We're going to see better results where it's generalized across the whole board. They know they can't get it away at home, and they know they can't get away with that behavior and in the school environment. So ABC data is a method that defines the stimuli or activity that occurs before a certain behavior. The behavior that follows the antecedent and the event or the consequent that follows that behavior. This approach can aid in identify the root cause of behavior to better inform treatment plans. To kind of explain that a little bit, normally what I really, really look at is the consequence. The consequence really drives why that behavior keeps coming and why is it continuous. With the ABC data, you might be like, wow, this is a lot. This is just a checkbox. You can see right here, there's a date, time, and the EA is actually the person. So sometimes the person might be our stimuli that's creating that behavior. Don't feel bad. That has happened to me. No problem. It just sometimes happens. And then the antecedent is what happened before the behavior. So maybe you were transitioning, or maybe you started doing math, or and then the B is the behavior. So what exactly did the kid do? Yell, throw, kick. So just checking it off. And then what happened immediately afterward. So, they got stopped to ask. They verbally were told stop to ask, or the item got taken away, or they were verbally said, go take a time out or whatnot. And then the person initials it. Now, you might say, this is a lot and maybe you don't have time to do it. Another way we have done it in the past, and some people are more technological, so we could possibly create a QR code where it automatically, you can scan it, and then you kind of click on your phone, and then it goes automatically into a drive. So you guys will have to let me know what you think is best for your team, and then you let me know, and I can create those QR codes pretty quickly. If not, we can stick to the paper trail. That's fine with me too. Scan it in, let me know, and send it to me, and then I can just review it so I can get that stuff implemented, or a behavior plan implemented. When we do the ABC data, I do like to do observation to kind of match up with your data. Not saying that you're doing it wrong, but that's so that I can hopefully see it. I usually tend to do about 30-minute intervals. If I see it pretty quickly, like I think the last time I went and I saw it pretty quickly what it was and why the behavior continued, I will stop my observation, but I try to stay in there 15 to 30 minutes to see what's going on with that behavior, just to kind of back it up as well. And then on that note, my my observations and my records are going to be this, the antidotal, where it's very word for word, exactly what you're doing in the classroom, from like, teacher walked in, teacher sat down, teacher handed a piece of paper to little Johnny. Little Johnny picked up the pencil, threw it across the room. Teacher went and picked it up, gave pencil back. Teacher scolded him. Teacher took away a token. It's very, very, very scripted. And they're just basically notes that are very scripted. It shows everything that has happened in that event or that time frame that I was there. That way it shows one, exactly what's going on. You can read it and see, what did I do? And then I kind of analyze that from there too. So you won't necessarily be doing antidotal. That one does take a lot of time. And that's why I usually stay there about 15 to 30 minutes, because it takes me a lot of time to just type up everything. And, it's just very specific. And sometimes when we are trying to come up with the right intervention, it needs to be specific for that child. So this is the fun part, the reinforcements, because reinforcements are necessary to drive kids to want to come to your classroom. So I always like to start this one off with, why do you come to work? Why do we all come to work? Because let me tell you, I hit that snooze button every time. I'm like, why do I go to work? Well, we go to work because, we all need money, right? That's our reinforcement. We need money to be able to pay our bills, to whatnot. Obviously, our reinforcement schedule is a lot longer. We wait the 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever it is, the 1st and the 15th. We wait that long because, we're adults. We can we can handle that, right? Our little kiddos might be a little bit less, depending on their age, of how long you want to give them a reinforcement. But there's 4 different reinforcements, and there's positive reinforcement, positive punishment, negative reinforcement, and then negative punishment. We're really going to focus on the positive reinforcement, especially in the school setting. We really want to stick at the positive reinforcement. Plus, there's a lot of studies that show that positive reinforcement influences behaviors to be much quicker in the change of adapting to appropriate behaviors. So, but I'm still going to kind of go over them a little bit on the next slide. So this is a lot of information, but just super quick, diving into the reinforcements of behavior is the positive reinforcement. The way we learn new behaviors is strongly influenced by positive reinforcement. So positive reinforcement is a process in which stimulus, an item, or an activity is added directly after behavior, resulting in the behavior increasing in future likelihood. That's a lot of words. So basically, in a nutshell, your little Johnny does one math problem, and let me tell you, he's been throwing and kicking and throwing that paper around, and he finally does one, and you give him his favorite M&M. And I'm not saying a lot of M&Ms, okay? I'm saying like a mini M&M. So be very, very careful of how many things of candy you give them, or edible. I know I do use a lot of edibles, but I make sure it's very sugar friendly. So if I'm going to do M&Ms, they'll be the mini ones. Or if I'm going to do Starburst, it's going to be a mini one. Because basically like 5 of them equals one little tiny square, right? Or I'll do Kix. That's very less sugar than Hershey Kiss or something. So depending on, you just be careful with the edibles. It could be goldfish. It could be, something that's healthy, if they like maybe even fruit, right? So what happens is that let's say little Johnny, like again, I'm going to go back a little bit, does his math problem. He does his 5 and good job. He gets the M&M. Oh, I get something for doing my math? Just like how Miss Acosta gets her paycheck. Of course I'm going to come back to work again. Of course little Johnny's going to do another problem. Oh, good job doing another problem. Oh, good job doing another problem. Good job. Well, now we got 5 done. So now he has 5 little mini M&Ms, right? And it doesn't have to be edible, so I should go back to that a little bit. It could be stickers. It could be a token board where he's earning free time. And it could be 5 tokens. It could be 20 tokens. It could be it could be 3 tokens for the littles. I would definitely do like 3 tokens and make it fun. You can do like, I have a kid that likes Mario Brothers, so I made him a Mario Brother token board. He loved it. He wanted to get him all the time. And when it comes to behaviors, you have to change all the time. Kids get bored super quick. So Mario Brothers was like for a month, and then also it was Pokemon. So then I was switching to Pokemon. So just, be aware that kids get bored. I'm sure you all know that. So I'm just going to touch base a little bit on the other 3, but necessarily we're not going to use them. We're going to really focus on the positive reinforcement. So negative reinforcement occurs when something unpleasant or uncomfortable is removed or taken away in order to increase the likelihood of the desired behavior. So example, kids want to avoid the nagging, so they do what needs to be done. So if I'm sitting there saying to my daughter, like, go fold the clothes, go fold the clothes, go fold the clothes, go fold the clothes. She'd be like, Mom, I'm sick and tired of hearing you. And then she goes and does it. So guess what? I stopped telling her, stop folding the clothes, right? She got what she wanted. My behavior was taken away. And I got, she did what she needed to do. So it was taken away, but it was reinforced because it got done. Negative punishment. Negative punishment occurs when something is removed as a consequence and the behavior decreases. So for example, the other day I was watching television and accidentally sat on the remote. When I saw the remote, which is the behavior, I sat and the TV turned off. The consequence, it was removed. So another one can be, negative, like something occurs and something is removed, so the consequence and the behavior decreases. So we could be, let me think of one. I'm drawing a blank. So it could be when your mom takes away your cell phone. That's a good one. Oh, that was a really good one. I can't believe that took me so long to think about it. So I'll give an example, like my daughter didn't fold the clothes. My nagging didn't work. So I'm like, okay, taking your cell phone. Oh, no. So her not doing folding the clothes stopped. So the next time when I asked her, guess what? She's going to fold those clothes. Positive punishment. Positive punishment is the addition of an aversive stimulus following a behavior in order to decrease the likelihood for that behavior occurring again. For example, if a child hits another child, the therapist may give the child a timeout, which is a form of positive punishment. So they remove the child, but it's aversive because they want to play, right? So they remove them and put them off to the side, which is a punishment. So, and it stops the behavior. So they added something. So they added the timeout to stop the behavior of hitting. So on that note, just some tips for positive reinforcement, because that's what we're going to really focus on this year. But I wanted to touch on the other ones because those do go with our reinforcements, but we really want to drive the positive, okay? Is catch them being good. Catch them being good when they don't think you're watching, because then it becomes, oh, they're watching me. Oh, they noticed that I'm being good. Make a conscious effort to notice when they are doing something positive and letting them know how much you appreciate it. Like, thank you so much for being in line. Thank you for being a good friend. Thank you for doing your work. I talked a little bit about token economies. This could be a whole nother training. I would love to do. The basic process is it's basically like money. You get so many tokens, you get free time. You get so many tokens, you get 5 goldfish. Whatever it is their goal. And so you kind of set it out for them, like, okay, you got to get 5 stars, and then you get how many goldfish you want them to get, or how many minutes they get on the iPad. Behavior specific praise. Be specific. Thank you for completing your 5 math problems. This makes me very happy. You can have your 5-minute break. Make sure you're very specific about it. Sorry about the next one. It's all blended together. Reinforce immediately. So don't wait too long. Automatic. Good job. High five. Good job. Here's a sticker. Good job. Here's a mini M&M. Good job. Here's a Kix. And it shows, like it says, research shows that reinforcement is best when it's right away. Right away. I hate to say this, but it's kind of like, I have 3 dogs. Love my babies. Oh my gosh, they're amazing. Hopefully one day I can talk to you about them and you'll probably tell me stop, you're fixating on them. But just like dogs, when you're potty training them and you're telling them, no, you can't do that. Or when they go pee outside, you give them the treat. And then all of a sudden, they realize, I go pee outside, I get a treat. It's very automatic. If I wait for them to pee and they come inside and start playing, and then, yeah, good job, go pee. And they'll be like, me playing gets a treat? No, it was you peeping outside that gets the treat. So, that's kind of like, sort of like with the kiddos is, if you see them doing their 5 math problems and then they go play and they go do a bunch of stuff and they go line up and then, here you go, here's your treat for doing your 5 math problems. What? Wait, I thought it was for lining up. You have to be super quick about it, especially our littles. Our older ones might comprehend that a little bit better, but definitely little ones need that automatic, like, good job, or automatic, here's your sticker. Start by reinforcing each occurrence. So every occurrence that happens. So you're going to be like, good job for doing your math problem. Good job for doing the next math problem. Good job. And it may feel exhausting. I'm not going to lie, it probably is going to be exhausting. But in the long run, so within a month or 2 from then, you will thank yourself and thank me for telling you this, that it's necessary, because you're going to dwindle back. You're not going to do it forever, but it's kind of building that I get something, and then one day, like 3 weeks, when you're like, I see that you can do this. Now I'm going to push for 2 problems instead of 1. And then maybe the next week you do 3 problems instead of 1. And then the following week you do 5 problems. And then one day they're doing a whole sheet with not even needing a goldfish. So eventually one day you don't want to give them that reinforcement. It might be just a high five or good job, or go to put a sticker on your 20-day chart. But we have to start with being very frequently to build the right appropriate behavior. So that way they see that they're getting reinforced positively for it, and they will want to do more for you because they want to be in your class, because they know that they're earning something, they're coming for something. And try to find something that they enjoy. Like, I have one that likes M&Ms. I have one that likes monster trucks. So I bring in monster truck stickers. Find what they enjoy so that they will work so hard for you. It's amazing. It could be high fives. It could be attention from you. It could be just eating next to you during lunchtime. It could be so simple as that. Next, just some ideas of positive reinforcement. I wanted to give some ideas. Edibles, be very, very careful. Don't give too many. I wouldn't give too many hot Cheetos. I always hear that, like, they work for hot Cheetos. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's going to hurt their stomach. And I know parents are probably like, that's fine. But, just be very, very careful, limited. You can snap that hot Cheeto in half. You can give them a little tiny piece, or 1 hot Cheeto for 10 problems, or, just be very, very mindful that we want them to be healthy. And you don't want, them to be eating cookies all day long. You can mix it up between, like, I'm going to use edibles for this math problem, and maybe because it's a harder subject, I would really think about that too. It's like, I know math is really hard, but I know he loves hot Cheetos, so I'm going to save the hot Cheetos for math. But my attention, and I know he loves to read, will be during reading time, and he doesn't really need my attention, but I'm willing to give it as like a positive reinforcement. So just be mindful of those type of incidents, I guess, or situations. Is when is it good to use edibles, which is a high desirable thing, or maybe toys and stickers are high desirable, and when is it to use like the least that are not desirable? Is something that they know how to do. So this is actually called high probability, low probability, whole nother different training. But basically you want them to do, they always say to do high probability. So something they know and like to do is you hit them with they like it, they don't like it, like it. So you're kind of like sandwiching in like what they don't like, right? So that can be the same with the positive reinforcement. Okay, reading, he likes it, so he's going to get verbal. Yay, good job. Writing, he hates it, so I'm going to give him, I know he loves hot Cheetos, so good job giving hot Cheetos. Break during science, because, well, I know he likes it, and during break, usually he plays with puzzles that are part of science. So just, be mindful of that. The other few other tangible iPad time, be creative with it. Really look at what you can do to be, it doesn't have to be money, like don't spend all your money on stuff. Look for free stuff, free samples. I love free samples. I love free stickers I get in the mail. Simple things of like drawing together or doing those fun drawing activities together. If somebody likes to draw, just be frugal, but also, make sure you ask what they really like. Another piece to a positive reinforcement too, and I want you to be aware of, is if we just have lunch and the child had cookies and goldfish and a sandwich, if we go back to class and I'm like, okay, you're going to work for goldfish, do you think that child's going to work for goldfish? No, because he's already been oversaturated with that. He doesn't want goldfish no more. So, of course, he's not going to work for it. So, make sure that kiddo doesn't get that item particularly when you're trying to, like, he's not oversaturated. So, he wants it. Something that he wants or she wants is what you want to use. So, a high desirable item. Kind of wanted to throw that in there because sometimes they'll be like, well, he didn't want to do anything. Well, what happened? Oh, well, he just had lunch. Well, of course he doesn't. Or mom just gave him a whole bag of Cheetos before he came in. Of course he's not going to work for Cheetos, that he doesn't want it anymore. He's already had enough. So just be mindful of that and be careful. So I want to show you this cute video. I love this video. It's one of my favorites. Let me show it to you. Of course, we're leaving it inside. And forgive the...
Now you're ready to help people customize and save $652 with Liberty Mutual.
Forgive this part, sorry.
75-cent boneless wings.
Of course, we're talking about food, right? So they're going to show wings.
Well, thank you. How thoughtful. Would you like a chocolate?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Oh, sorry, Sheldon. I almost sat in your spot.
Did you? I didn't notice. Have a chocolate.
Thank you.
You're here a lot now.
Oh, am I talking too much? I'm sorry. Zip.
Thank you. Chocolate?
Yes, please. Oh. Hey, Kim. Yeah, you know what? Hold on. Let me take this in the hall. You'll never guess who they got to replace you at work.
Okay. I know what you're doing.
Really?
Yes. You're using chocolates as positive reinforcement for what you consider correct behavior.
Very good. Chocolate?
No, I don't want
Okay, so that's one of my favorite videos because it kind of shows what positive reinforcement is. Penny, he wants to, change Penny's behavior. So he's using chocolate to get her to change her behavior by using that positive reinforcement. So just something super cute to show you. I love that video. I always show it. But positive reinforcement will go such a long way. And ultimately, when it comes down to it, and like I tell everybody, why does your kiddo want to come to you? Of course, it's not just the tangible things or the edible things that are coming, but they love going to your class because they want to learn. They want to be there because they're learning to be great citizens and becoming great students and learning things that not necessarily they're going to learn at home, right? So just know that you're impacting their lives. You're making a difference. This is hard work. Another thing I'm going to throw in there for you too is take some time for yourself too. Self-care is huge. Whatever it is you need on those weekends, go do, spend time with your family, meditate, whatever it is that you do to do self-care. Because your self-care, and that's your positive reinforcement, is going to influence the students later. And I will throw this last thing in there. I'm very, very high in I'm very a believer in our energy, right? Our energy. So if I come in sad, my students know. If I come in angry, they know. When I come in sick, they know, right? Our energy displays will be projected onto our students. And our autism kiddos are so in tune with that. I actually had a student that I worked with that knew the different frequencies of different radio stations. So like he'd be like, we would play YouTube. No YouTube. And then we would play, okay, no YouTube. So then we would play Pandora. No Pandora. How did he even know that? I don't know. But they're just in tune with that kind of stuff. So just remember that your energy is projected onto them. And of course, their energy, you're going to feel it too. So kind of recapping a little bit, and just remember, consistent positive reinforcement is the fuel that keeps the fire burning long enough to achieve any change you desire. Positive reinforcement will change your behavior. So just make sure to stay positive. Give that reinforcement automatically, consistently. Be consistent. Behaviors are not going to change overnight. I'm sorry to say that. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some energy. You might even shed some tears. I've shed a lot of tears before. But when you see the end result, you will thank yourself for pushing through. You'll be like, oh my gosh. And you know what the best thing is, honestly, is when the parents come to you crying. And I mean, some of them come crying because they don't know what to do, and you have changed their child to be beautiful humans, because they are beautiful humans, right? They just need that right teacher to teach them, and you guys are that. You guys are the right teacher to teach them. You guys have the right tools. You have been given them, and if you think you don't, reach out to us. Reach out to me, Denise, Christy, whoever it is that you need to reach out to, and we will get you those tools. We'll get you the training, or get you to whatever you think you need, or what you think the students need, right? Just know that these kiddos are going to love you. They're going to adore you. And there might be some tough times. And there might be some times that you're going to shape behaviors that are strong, like strong behaviors. But just know that it takes a village to raise a child, right? It takes a village to help children. And we are here to help you. I'm just a text away. I always tell everybody, text me. I have my phone on me constantly. If I can't get a phone, like grab the phone and call, text me. I'll text you right away. Whatever it is you need, I can schedule an observation or whatever it is you need, or you want to talk to me later, we can schedule a time to talk and we can talk it out. Just know you're here, you're supported. We know that great things are going to come this year. And I want to thank you so much for allowing me to come into your classrooms and allow me to be part of this team, because you guys are ultimately doing the hard work. But it's also such rewarding work. And know that you're making a difference and that you can do anything with these kids, because one day they're going to look back and they're going to say, Miss or Mr. So-and-so did this for me, and they're going to be successful adults, and they're going to be our doctors and our mechanics and whatever they are, want to be police officers. I think the other day I saw one of my old students and he had put on his little thing he wanted to be a boy or a ninja. Super cute. But just know, again, just want to kind of recap, is our autism kiddos, meet them where they're at, help them do great things, and replace the inappropriate behaviors with appropriate behaviors by modeling positive reinforcement, collecting that data, so that way if it does come down to like we just can't figure out what's going on, then I can come in, analyze it, create a solid plan for not only you but parents to implement too. So then that way we create a team of people surrounding these kids so that they could be successful in our community and in their social interactions and just their whole life, right? We want them to be successful. So again, I want to thank you. I hope you guys have an awesome year. I will be emailing you the ABC data, my phone number, my email, whatever you need. I would probably give you my blood if I could, but I don't think you guys want that. But whatever you need, please reach out. I'm always here for you. I know Denise is here for you. Chrissy's here for you. All the teachers and staff are probably there for each other. I already know it. You guys are a solid team. But thank you again for your time. Have a great first day next Monday. And I hope to see everybody soon. Have a great day.